live coverage of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT Government Access.
Not the official start to our meeting. We started doing our kind of ceremonial and special events before the regular town board meeting. That way, we didn't force you to sit through kind of the business part of the meeting, and we can shine the light on the achievements and good events that happen. So with that, I'd like to welcome everyone here. Tonight we have 4 swearing-ins of 2 new officers and 2 promotions within the department. 5, excuse me. I'm already off. And with that, it's always fun to do this because I basically can yield control of the meeting to Chief Tantillo. So I'm going to ask the town board to join me up front. And Chief, you can take over as Master of Ceremonies.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor. I'm joined here by Captain Alan Laird. This is a very really important ceremony and also something that we've seen people grow and develop through their time here as a police officer who've now reached the rank of sergeant. And then the recruit officers who have now successfully completed all of their training and seeing them now working as dedicated police officers for the town of Arundecoit. So if I could please first have Sergeant Jason Murphy come forward with his family. Family are welcome, pictures are welcome. There are no boundaries here, so let's make the best of it.
Don't be shy.
Just a brief introduction, and myself and Captain Laird will kind of alternate. Sergeant Murphy has been with the Arundecoit Police Officer since 2010. He's a member of our Honor Guard, an evidence technician, and a field training officer. He also is part of the crisis intervention team, which is really an important aspect to policing in this 21st century, where we not only have officers trained as crisis intervention de-escalation techniques, but we also partner with the Office of Mental Health, and they will send out counselors, mental health professionals, to ride with us. So if we have a situation involving an individual in crisis, we have the tools necessary to de-escalate that situation. He's attended tactical response to school crisis programs, human trafficking. As I mentioned, he's worked a number of high-profile cases as an evidence technician. He's a general topics police instructor, a radar instructor, and is instructed at the field training course for police officers. He's attended a number of trainings associated with critical incident stress management. I'm going to put that all under the officer wellness category. So he's been very helpful in dealing with us as crisis situations or critical incidents where our officers have been exposed to some unspeakable events, and we just saw that happen, unfortunately, yesterday in the city of Rochester. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Keuka College and was magna cum laude. I don't know if we ever had one of those before. It certainly wasn't me. He has an Associate's in Applied Science and Criminal Justice from Genesee Community College. He's been an excellent police officer for this community for a number of years. He's worked very hard to get where he is today, and it's our pleasure to move forward with his ceremonial promotion to the rank of sergeant with the oath of office.
All right, gang, we're going to come up here. Who's holding the Bible for Sergeant Murphy? All right, Mom, why don't you come? Mom, you're going to stand right here. Sergeant Murphy, put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Jason Murphy,
I, Jason Murphy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the State of New York.
and of the State of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all of the laws
of the State of New York
of the State of New York
and the town of Arundecoit.
and the town of Arundecoit.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank of police sergeant
of the rank of police sergeant
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide. I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
Sergeant Murphy, congratulations.
So I guess this is the part where I have to give some words and give a brief speech that I know a few people were kind of just kidding me about in the locker room a little while ago. I just want to say first off, thank you to town supervisor, town board, obviously the chief of police, and our captain as well for allowing me this opportunity to serve in this capacity. It's something I've aspired to since I became a police officer, starting back in 2004 when I entered my basic academy. I've got my family here with me, my mom, my dad, my future wife, Kelly, with me as well. Just really honored to have this opportunity to serve in a different capacity and work with the officers that I used to work with on the road, and kind of try and do the best I can to strengthen your careers, work very hard to try and achieve that officer wellness, and try to use every bit of the training that I've received in the past to really help propel this department forward in any way I possibly can. So that's basically the cliff notes of what I can think of. I probably had a huge speech planned at one point in my head, but that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I'd like to call up Sergeant Morgan and his family. Sergeant Brian Morgan has been a police officer since 2000, where he started his career in the city of Richmond, Virginia. In 2006, Sergeant Morgan returned to the Rochester area and took a position with the Rochester Police Department. And then in November of 2007, Sergeant Morgan joined the Irondequoit Police Department, where he's been assigned to 1st Platoon ever since. During his career, Sergeant Morgan has been recognized numerous times for his work. He's received the following awards: Chief's Commendation, Officer of the Month, a Life-Saving Award, 2 Platoon of the Month awards, 2 Excellent Police Duty Medals, 6 Commendation Awards, and is a 5-time Officer of the Year. In addition to the above-mentioned awards, Sergeant Morgan is a field training officer with the IPD. He holds an associate's degree in criminal justice from MCC and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in sociology from SUNY Brockport. Sergeant Morgan is a valued member of the Irondequoit Police Department, and it is our pleasure to have him sworn in as police sergeant tonight.
Okay, sir. Raise your hand and hold in your Bible. Okay. You're watching the one before. Don't be shy, you can fill around. Sergeant Morgan, you put your left hand on the Bible and repeat after me. If the script is okay, the actual signing of the oath is the one that we're going to have. Let's try to do it right. Okay. I, Brian Morgan,
I, Brian Morgan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of New York.
and of the state of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all of the laws
of the state of New York
of the state of New York
and the town of Irondequoit.
and the town of Irondequoit.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank of police sergeant
of the rank of police sergeant
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Irondequoit.
the citizens of the town of Irondequoit.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Irondequoit Police Department.
of the Irondequoit Police Department.
Sergeant Morgan, congratulations.
Hello. I'll be quick. I know we got a lot more to do. Just want to thank the town supervisor, the town board members, the chief, the captain. Like the captain said, the entire time I've been in Irondequoit, I've been on midnight shift. It's by choice. I like nights. I like the hours. I have a very understanding family. And back when my son was in kindergarten, he once told his teacher, my dad's nocturnal. Not sure where he came up with that word. So needless to say, I don't make too many appearances in the daylight around here. So I can only assume some of the town board members are looking over going, who is this guy? I believe I believe police work in general is a team effort, and I think we have one of the best teams at IPD. And I am excited and grateful to have this opportunity to continue serving on that team in a different capacity now. So, thank you.
Next, if I can have Officer Matthew Barrett come forward, please. And his family? There they are. All right. Officer Barrett was hired by the Arundecoyt Police Department last year. He had previously served as a Monroe County Sheriff's deputy in the Jail Bureau. Matthew's been a longtime resident of the town of Arundecoyt, graduate of Arundecoyt High School, worked at a number of local businesses in this community. As you can see, he's raising his family here. He has a bachelor's degree from the College at Brockport in marketing. And I had the pleasure of serving with his father when we were both patrol officers here many, many years ago. And had the opportunity to see Matthew and his brother grow up to the fine young men that they are today and the families that they're raising. So at this particular point, Matthew, we'd like to administer the oath of office.
I'd like to hold the Bible. All right, buddy. It's heavy. Hold it high so it's not bending the knee.
I, Matthew Barrett,
I, Matthew Barrett,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of New York.
and of the state of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all of the laws
of the state of New York
of the state of New York
and the town of Arundecoyt.
and the town of Arundecoyt.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank of police officer
of the rank of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Arundecoyt.
the citizens of the town of Arundecoyt.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoyt Police Department.
of the Arundecoyt Police Department.
Officer Barrett, congratulations.
You can stay up.
You guys are going to go? Like everyone else, just echo, I want to thank the chief, the captain, the command staff, Supervisor Seeley, and the town board for giving me an opportunity. I want to thank my FTOs, at the time, Officer Morgan, now Sergeant Morgan, Joe Kuhn, who's in the back, and my primary FTO, who couldn't be here right now, Joe Shevlin. I learned a lot from them in a short period of time, and I'm learning a lot from the other officers. This is a great department to work for. But most importantly, I have to thank my family. Like the chief said, I came from the jail. I did back-to-back academies, basically, and that was a lot for them. So they put up with me, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Gotta make it official. That's one that counts. This is just all.
This time I'd like to call up Officer Fakara and his family. Officer Fakara joined the Arundecoyt Police Department in September of last year when he began the Recruit Academy at the Public Safety Training Center. Officer Fakara was a leader in his platoon and always willing to go the extra step in the academy. Prior to his law enforcement career, Officer Fakara was a driver for a local trucking company, and he was recognized numerous times by his peers for going above and beyond. He was also recognized as Driver of the Year for that company. All skills that he transitioned right into the academy, where he, from the class counselors, is always known to go the extra step to be there to help everybody. Prior to serving his community as a police officer, Officer Fakara served as a volunteer firefighter with the Laurelton Fire Department here in Arundecoyt. He holds his New York State Firefighter 1 and New York State EMT B certifications as a result of his volunteer service with Laurelton. It was a great pleasure. We welcome Officer Fakara to the Arundecoyt Police Department.
Officer Carr, repeat after me. I, William Ficarra,
I, William Ficarra,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of New York.
and the state of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all of the laws
of the state of New York
of the state of New York
and the town of Arundecoit.
and the town of Arundecoit.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank of police officer
of the rank of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
Officer Ficarra, congratulations.
All right, first I just want to thank the chief, captain, all the command staff for the opportunity. Former Captain Bean, who was also there at the time that I interviewed, Lieutenant Reed, Lieutenant Jeske, Supervisor Seeley, and the town board for the opportunity. I've worked long and hard to try to get out of my former career and into a career as a first responder. I truly believe that a lot of small steps, small decisions turn into big decisions. I want to take the time to thank all of our class counselors I had in Class 66 who really instilled a lot of the basics to law enforcement for me. Lastly, I want to take the time to represent and thank my family who put up with, honestly, a lot. My wife is actually in school right now getting her doctorate. At the same time I was in school with the academy. I want to thank her for dealing with all that, and also with my little boy here who's nonstop energy. Lastly to that, I want to thank all the FTOs and officers that have helped me throughout the career so far. My primary was Officer Kelly Kreiser, Officer Joe Kuhn, who's in the back, and then now Sergeant Brian Morgan, as well as Officer Luby, Officer Jagoda, and Officer Bohr, and the countless number of other officers that have helped answer a million questions along the way. And I want to thank you in advance because I'm going to probably have a million more questions that I'm going to bug you with. So, all right, thank you.
I can have Officer John Jelfel come forward, please. Officer Jelfel, much like the other two police officers, finishing up his training with the police recruit class that we hired in September of 2018. Officer Jelfel graduated from Bishop Kearney High School and attended Monroe Community College, where he has an associate's degree in criminal justice. He's been involved in a number of leadership and volunteer program efforts, as he was a head counselor at Camp Open Arms and Gilda's Club of Rochester, so it really demonstrates his passion for serving others and being an excellent role model for the people that he works with and the individuals that he works for. He has successfully completed his FTO program, which we've heard several officers speak about. They have their official graduation occurring next week, which will include some celebration, I'm sure, but not too much. These three candidates have been exceptional additions to our agency, and we welcome them with the final oath of office tonight.
Who has the pleasure? Officer Jelfel, please repeat after me. I, John Jelfel,
I, John Jelfo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of New York.
and of the state of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all of the laws
of the state of New York
of the state of New York
and the town of Arundecoit.
and the town of Arundecoit.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank of police officer
of the rank of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
Officer Jelfel, congratulations.
So, saving the best for last, I assume. Like everyone before me, I would like to thank the town, my family, the town board, my chief, my supervisors, all the senior officers who have, again, answered all of the million questions that I have and will have. Thank my mom, without her, I just want to make her proud, so I'll cut it short. That's about it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out today, showing your support.
Now, I normally don't have 9 minutes left to speak, so can I use that?
Yeah.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask. But I'll,
You have to yield your time
Yeah,
back,
right.
so it's
to, to the gentleman from Arundecoy. But all kidding aside, these officers have been trained by some exceptional people. Many of them are in this room tonight. The men and women of the Arundecoy Police Department serve this community with distinction and honor and with a great deal of pride. And I think you hear that echoed from all three of the new recruits who are taking on some awesome responsibilities. But they've been trained by the best. We feel as though they are completely prepared to perform their duties, and they've actually been doing that for the last couple of weeks on their own. In addition to the recruit officers, we have two new sergeants that have demonstrated capable leadership as patrol officers, and they were looked upon as leaders and role models by their peers and come highly recommended for this assignment. And I think that as you look around the room, we can all rest at ease in recognizing that the future of the Arundecoy Police Department is in very good hands. So I want to thank you all, I want to congratulate you all, and I appreciate your dedication to this community. Thank you.
So Chief has one more request, just to do a group picture if possible with all the officers and sergeants who were sworn in. I just want to personally thank, and on behalf of the board, congratulate all of the officers and sergeants who were promoted or sworn in tonight. It's quite an accomplishment. And I'll just echo, I think, what each of the individuals up here said. To all the family members out here, we certainly on the town board understand the sacrifices you make, and it's inherent in the, I guess, the job of being a family member of a sworn police officer. So please know we never take that for granted either, nor do we the valuable service that our police provide. So thank you very much for being here again. We'll take a little bit of a recess, but if you raised your hand and were sworn in tonight, please come up here and take one more picture. Thank you. I now call to order the July 16th, 2019 regular town board meeting of the town board of the town of Arundequoit. Visitors are invited to join the board members in rising to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilwoman Hush LeRae.
Here.
Councilman Perticone.
Here.
Councilwoman Romeo.
Here.
Councilman Weiner.
Here.
Supervisor Seeley.
Here.
Attorney for the town.
Thank you. We have a busy board meeting tonight. I'll note there is one public hearing tonight regarding a proposed zoning change on Culver Road. That public hearing by town law starts at 7:35. If you are here to address the board on that public hearing, I invite you to sign up. You can still address the board once the public hearing starts, but that just gives us an idea who to call up. We will also be doing public input as we do every month. If you are here to talk about the zoning change, we ask that you wait till the public hearing begins so that we can get it on the complete record for that public hearing. The sign-in sheets are right there when you walked in, one of which will clearly say for the public hearing, the other for public input. I know it's confusing. You may go sign in. We'll collect it in a little bit. Before we get started with our business portion of the meeting, a few just brief announcements. The community center referendum will take place July 30th, Tuesday, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the St. Catherine Parish Center at Christ the King, 445 Kings Highway South. I want to thank really the couple hundred residents, perhaps more, that turned out last week at the former mall, which is the proposed site of the new center, to really just get a feel for where it would be located and also have questions answered about the project. A lot of good questions from residents, but above all, we like seeing them turn out to things like that. There will be one more public meeting on the referendum here at Town Hall, July 25th. That's a Thursday at 6:30 p.m. right here in the Broderick meeting room. That will also be televised on ICAT as well on Facebook Live. And as always, for more information about the proposal, you can visit ArundequoitCommunityCenter.com. If you live on the southern portion of town, really south of Ridge Road right now, or perhaps on the north, you're probably aware of the New York State Department of Transportation project taking place on Route 104 East, which has involved closing the 104 East ramp leading to the Bay Bridge. Much of the disruption involves, or not say disruption, but the new traffic patterns involve a lot of commuters coming from the eastern portion of Monroe County as well as Ontario County, and the impact on their commute. We have been working directly with state DOT as well as our partners in government to try and do our best to mitigate the disruption. I live in the Laurelton neighborhood, so I'm very well aware of the higher volume of cars right now on that portion of town. There were changes made Saturday on striping on the 590 South ramp to Empire to allow more cars to stack that ramp coming off 590 South. DOT is also suggesting to travelers they can use exit 7 at Browncroft as an alternate area to turn around and head back north to the 104 bridge. Again, the bridge is not closed, just that ramp from 104 East. Some have asked why we perhaps couldn't open up the Arundequoit Bay Outlet Bridge, and the short answer to that is the United States Coast Guard will not let us do that during summer hours due to the federal safe harbor law. I wish they would or have exceptions, but that's not going to happen. Beginning Wednesday evening, I'm happy to say that State DOT will begin 2 shifts per day, working well into the night. They're also applying a new latex modified overlay to speed the cure of the cement, which they believe will allow for a shorter delay in the reopening as compared to other methods. So they are moving as quickly as possible. They are trying to be as responsive as possible, and we are happy to continue facilitating that. In recognition of Pride Week in Rochester, I'm proud to say that for the first time ever, we've raised the Pride flag throughout Arundequoit Town Hall campus. In my mind, this is long overdue and a proper testament to affirm our commitment to ensuring that all residents in the town of Arundequoit are free to be fully participating citizens. Last week, Arundequoit was one of only a handful of towns in New York State and the only town in Monroe County to be awarded funding through an initiative of the State Attorney General's Office to help communities like ours manage zombie properties and help manage them and help get them back into ownership. The funding we receive will help us execute a strategic plan to ensure that these properties are maintained and do not create blight in our beautiful neighborhoods, and really works on the good efforts of our Community Development Department over the past few years to really reduce the number of these vacant homes throughout Arundecoit, but still much more work to be done, and we're welcome this funding from the Attorney General's office. An update on our DPW building, which is being constructed off of 590. Recently, we completed the Concord pours in the main garage. It was a lot of concrete. It's a lot of square footage. We constructed the new salt barn and topsoil barn, and we also disassembled, as you may see in back of me, really on the current town hall campus, our temporary structure, which is being torn down and moved over to the new facility and will serve as storage for our smaller vehicles. We still expect a mid-October finish, on time and under budget. On a more somber note, we were saddened in the town hall community and the town of Arundecoit with the passing of Bob Flaherty, who I believe is a lifelong resident. Mr. Flaherty, not only in addition to being a contributor to our community and really representing the best of our town, also represented the town's interest as our insurance broker for a number of years. He was a really joy to be around. I really appreciated my time, but really provided a lot of valuable public service to the people of Arundecoit. So our thoughts are with his wife Diane and his children as well. Last month, we joined representatives from the Arundecoit Public Library, the Library Foundation, and members of the community to dedicate a very special little free library adjacent to Town Hall. Hopefully, if you were coming in, you noticed it. The dedication of the library was a capstone event in the first phase of a broader initiative to celebrate the many little free libraries throughout our community, which have become a distinguishing attribute of the town's neighborhoods. For more information about this exciting initiative and what's upcoming, please visit arundecoitlibrary.org/LFL. And in that vein, I want, as we do in every month, last week at our regular our town board workshop meeting, we recognize Amy Holland, who is a children's librarian next door, with our Staff Spotlight Award. In addition to being a terrific children's librarian, Amy was the point person from the library in this initiative on the Little Free Libraries and worked very, very hard and really, as we say, quarterbacked that initiative. And we're grateful for her hard work and all the members of the library. So congratulations to Amy, and we really appreciate all of the hard work you invested towards that project. With that, we can now move on to public input. I'm going to walk down and get the sign-in sheet, which I neglected to do at first. I'll be right back. And once again, I'll just reiterate, we do have a public hearing on a proposed zoning change. That public hearing won't start until 7:35 pursuant to town law. This is public input, which allows members of the community to address the board on any topic. However, if you are here for the zoning change, again, we just ask that you withhold your comments until the public hearing. The sign-up sheet is over there, and we will get to that at 7:35 to ensure your comments are in the record of the public hearing. With that, first to sign up is Robert Shainbrook.
My name is Robert Shainbrook. I live at 439 Avondale Road. This is the third time I've addressed you on exactly the same subject. I don't want to be here, but I don't seem to be able to make any progress. I'm asking for the same thing I asked for almost 2 years ago. One, request the hillside. I'm requesting repair of the hillside damage caused by the January 2017 waterline slope failure by my home. Two, remove the non-conforming on-surface waterline from my property that was installed in January 2017. I've been looking at this waterline for 2 years. A violation was posted by the town September 11th, 2018. I've seen no difference as a result of that. Allow me to comment on permit applications that affect my property that have been submitted to the town. Mr. Drazel, who submitted the applications, told me he submitted them, quote, months ago. The town has responded to the permit applications by paying to have the land surveyed, the town land. And fifth, respond to my communications. I try to contact people at the town, I get no response. From a few of you, I've actually gotten a response to emails from the last 2 years, but very rarely. And the response is usually, yes, we received it. There have been some changes. The slope has failed some more. The EPOD steep slope is susceptible to failing, and it is continuing. There have been 2 separate waterline breaks on Seneca Road that have been repaired. This demonstrates the current practice doesn't provide a safe and reliable technique to install water lines on the bay's EPOD steep slope. Unchanged. I have had no response to emails and phone calls to planning and zoning. I have not been able to see applications submitted to the town that affect my property. I have filed a FOIL on June 5th. I was told I would have information in response to the FOIL on June 11th. I have received absolutely no information. Why it takes over a month to give me a copy of a current application totally baffles me. And I also don't understand why, as a citizen of this town, I'm treated so poorly by the town. I've lived here over 40 years. I've never had any difficulty or interface with the town other than getting building permits. But I'm totally unable to get any response. So I've given you the same information I've given you over and over again, but I don't understand. Do you have any reply?
My reply is, nothing has changed since you last came before the board last month. As far as the information you're seeking, we don't have a complete application, permit application. We sent suggested revisions and comments to the owner. We have yet to receive them back from him. When we have a completed permit application, that is something we are able to share with you.
Why has no one ever told me that?
They have told you that, sir.
They have not.
Very well. I don't think that's true,
And
sir.
I've submitted a FOIL, and I was told I would get information on July 11th. I've never received anything.
That's the information I'm giving you right now, and we can,
Okay. Well, I'm sorry it's turned in this, but it's incredible to me.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next up, Christopher Burns. And Mr. Burns, just please say your address as well, just to get it on the record.
Good evening, everyone. Christopher Burns at 90 Kinnery Drive. I'm here tonight to talk about the New York State DOT's proposed road diet for Empire Boulevard between Hellendale and Culver. This is a project that I learned about only last week at a public meeting that very few people in the community actually ever heard about. So I'm here to ask you for your help and to ask you to intervene in the situation, specifically to lean on the DOT to rethink their plans. As it stands, the DOT plans to reduce Empire Boulevard from 2 travel lanes in each direction to 1 travel lane in each direction with a center left turn lane. Why am I asking you for your help with this? Because the DOT's planned road diet is directly in conflict with the expressed wishes of our residents, our stakeholders, and our neighbors that are going to be most affected by it. Attending the DOT's info session convinced me that the DOT's decision-making was being done in a vacuum. The more I heard, the more it felt like they were imposing upon us, our neighborhoods, a solution in search of a problem. In other words, the DOT never actually asked our residents, our neighborhoods, hey, what do we want for Empire Boulevard? What do we see as our needs? So, to be sure, we've all been hearing people complaining for years that Empire Boulevard needs to be repaved and redone. There are potholes, it's rough, so on and so forth. But we haven't been hearing people complaining that it needs to be totally redesigned and reconfigured. So in all fairness, I was curious to gauge how much support the DOT's plans had among our residents and our adjacent neighborhoods. I put out a poll to the members of my neighborhood association, the Party Hill Neighborhood Association, and that's the area that's bounded on its southern border by that entire corridor of Empire Boulevard. Later, I put out a poll to the broader Irondequoit Facebook group. I asked people if they supported the proposed lane reductions on Empire Boulevard or if they felt the current configuration should be preserved such as it is today. As I expected, there were impassioned arguments, comments, and experiences shared on both sides of the issue. With that being said, the reality is this. Looking at the poll from the Irondequoit group, by an 8-to-1 margin, the vast majority of our community stakeholders and residents reject the plan for a road diet for Empire Boulevard. That's pretty telling. So on behalf of those of us who live in that corridor, work in that corridor, travel that corridor, we're asking you to not let the DOT steamroll our preferences and instead to step in now and take, some initiative to really advocate for our residents and our community. So I recognize the residents and the stakeholders who really want to expand the sidewalk network in that corridor. People who want to expand and improve pedestrian crossings, and people who are sensitive to the overall safety of that corridor. Those are all totally legitimate concerns. With that being said, there are also residents and stakeholders who have loudly expressed their concerns about what's going to happen by short-sightedly reducing roadway capacity in that corridor. So those of us who live there and drive through there every day know just how sensitive that corridor is to shocks to the system, if you will, in terms of traffic congestion on adjacent roadways. And oh, by the way, last Friday's traffic gridlock that had traffic bumper to bumper the entire length of that corridor in both lanes could not have better illustrated just how sensitive that corridor is to traffic events nearby. So Supervisor Seeley and Commissioner Kiley, I'm asking you both to get out in front of this situation before it becomes a lightning rod issue for our neighborhoods and our community. I'm asking you to step in and compel the DOT to go back to the drawing board to design and deliver a win-win solution that we all can live with. And the thing is, we're all smart people here. By working together, both with creativity and flexibility, we can accomplish all of our shared objectives and address everyone's concerns, including preserving the current lanes of travel, improving pedestrian and driver safety, and improving access and beautifying the corridor. So folks, thanks in advance for your help in this situation, working to put residents and neighbors first. And I'm going to share with you the poll in case you didn't see it.
Ooh, it's a very fancy presentation. Okay, thank you, Mr. Burns. I'll submit those, Peter. Actually, why don't you give me one for Barb, too? Okay, next up we have Mr. Richard Barone, 154 Allwood. Mr. Barone. And of course, if no one has signed up for public input and you still wish to address the board, not relevant to the public hearing, you may come up after Mr. Barone. But Mr. Barone, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Been a resident of this town for 50 years. I had the honor of serving on this board for 8 years as a councilman, chairman of the planning board. I know this town intimately. Every street I've walked at least twice. I'm concerned about a couple of things. A few years ago, I took a court case all the way up to the Court of Appeals because the local government was sending out material that had subjective statements on an issue on the ballot. That court case became a landmark case in the Court of Appeals. It was used against the governor and other people. That says basically that you cannot have any material that's subjective. It has to be factual. It has to be data. It cannot be opinions. For example, you have a 2-page item that I've given you information on in the town hall and also in the senior center that has subjective statements. Why do we need a community center? There's no need. It hasn't been proven. There's no facts to prove it. You can't do that. And my concern is if you send out a newsletter and you put that subjective information, guess what? The courts under certain circumstances will overturn the vote, especially if it's a very small margin of the vote. They have a procedure where it can be overturned. It's unusual, probably doesn't happen often, but it can be done. However, there's another problem, and I'm even more concerned about, and that is I know Christ the King Church intimately. I've been a parishioner there for many years. I've had an architect and an engineer look at it. You had 5,000 people come out in the middle of winter in 2009 for a project, not even 1/10 this project, in the middle of winter, and there were lines outside the town hall. This project is not only a tax increase, that project was not. This is all kinds of things that you're doing. You're going to give the landlord $4 to $5 million, the architect that I have estimates. You're going to give him benefits to his building that if this doesn't come to be, or if it's a problem later on, he walks away with all that money into this building if this thing fails. Anyways, my concern is this. you're going to get probably somewhere between 6,000 to 7,000 people out. I mean, if you got 5,000 people out and nothing as big as this, you're going to get more because this is the summer and it involves more items and there's a lot of information out there. Anyways, I ask that you consider this, a shuttle for cars that can't come onto the site. The town hall, Bishop Carney, I would think, would be willing. The school is not in session. You don't want cars turning away. You don't want cars all the way down to Titus Avenue. That site will work when cars come in and they just park. It's not going to work with cars coming in and out. So please, would you please look into a shuttle and an alternate parking that people can vote. You don't want this hanging over whether the vote is yes or no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barone. That's the extent of folks who have signed up for public input. If you have any comments to the board not relevant to the public hearing, you may come up now if you are here for the public hearing. It looks like you have something not to the public hearing, so.
Signed up on the wrong list.
That's okay. Just say your name and address for the record, sir.
Thomas Sanfilippo, 383 Bayfront Lane
Thank you, sir.
North. Good evening. I'm here to speak about my 2-year experience with the zoning code and the building department and the building ordinances. In 2017, June of 2017, the house next to me was purchased from my elderly neighbor who was living in the house. That owner immediately began tearing the house apart, gutting the house. The first thing that he did was rip out 3 mature trees on the property. I'm on the bay, and that was in violation of the Bay Harbor Management Act. He continued to rip the house apart, gut the house, started replacing exterior walls, and just ripped the house apart. Structural work, plumbing work. The house is still gutted. It's a mess. We watched him do this through the summer of 2017 and then in through the summer of 2018. My wife called the town several times to ask about permits because we never saw permits posted. We were told that there were permits for this work. In September of 2018, I had a friend who had a barge with a backhoe at my dock, tied to my dock. He asked me if that was okay because he was doing work for the town of Irondequoit at the launch, at the town's launch. And he keeps the barge at the south end. It's a long way to travel. He asked if he could keep the barge at my property. I said, fine. The next thing I know, I get a notice of apparent violation. I was noticed that if I didn't contact the town and tell them my intent, I was going to be fined. I wasn't doing any work. There was nothing I was doing that required permits. And yet I get this so-called notice of apparent violation. It doesn't exist under the code. And I was basically told that I was going to be fined if I didn't tell you what my plans were. I couldn't believe it. I felt it outrageous. It was like I was being cornered by the zoning, the building code police, thought police. Meanwhile, I'm watching this house be torn apart next door, and the owner is doing everything that I was told I could not do in this notice of apparent violation. Construction work, alterations to the property, demolition of any of the property. I called the town again and asked them about this and told them what was going on next door. I was told there were permits. In October, I was happened to be at the town hall to file my grievance for the $110,000 increase in my property valuation. While I was here, I stopped at the building department and asked if there were permits. They said that there were. I said, they pulled permits and had permits in their hand. I said, may I see them? They said, no, you can't look at them. In November of 2018, the owner moved a self-propelled commercial bucket lift onto the property. It's been there since last November, has not been used once. This gentleman applied for a variance to rip off the second floor and the roof and put in a second and a third floor and a new roof. How he did that without plans, I don't know, but he did. He's had the bucket lift there since November. I'm looking at it outside my front door, as well as this ripped up house. I called the town at that time and complained about the bucket lift. And I was told, and I also asked about permits, and I was told that permits were not necessary for the work that he was doing. I said, how is that possible? I know for a fact he's putting in structural laminate beams, that he's done plumbing, that he's gutted the house. I was told permits weren't necessary for the work that he was doing. I said, well, could you please make him move the bucket lift? Because the zoning code says you can only keep construction vehicles on residential property if it's being actively used. I was told that he has applied for a permit, and so that gives him the right to keep the bucket lift there. I said, well, what does the permit say? What does the application say? He said, I can't tell you what the application says because it has to be reviewed yet. I called about the permits again and argued if all this work is being done without permits, why hasn't a stop work order been issued in accordance with the codes and make him supply plans and apply for permits? The person I talked to told me that I was really pissing him off.
Sir, we have a public hearing, so I'm just going to ask you to.
My
try
wife
to
is
conclude.
signed up too. Joan, would you yield your time to me? Thank you.
Thank you.
In May, I attended a zoning board of appeals hearing for this gentleman's application for a variance for a dock. He was applying for a permit for a dock larger than is allowed by the code. The chairman of the zoning board at that time asked him, I've been down there to view the site, is the house habitable? This gentleman replied, no, it can't be occupied, and it hasn't been occupied since I bought the property. The chairman told the gentleman, the code requires that for an accessory structure like a dock, that you have a principal use, which is a home. Come back in, how long is it going to be before the house is ready to be occupied? The applicant replied 2 months. The chairman said, come back in 2 months. The applicant then turned around and went to the building department and applied for a permit for a dock. And they granted the permit for the dock, although the code is clear that to put in an accessory structure, you have to have a principal use. A vacant, unoccupied structure is not a principal use. And it upsets us because he's not working on the house, and yet he's concerned about having a dock. And the town is aiding him in skirting the zoning code. I made a FOIL request in April of 2019, and for any permits, applications, plans, anything of that nature. And the response was, no such records exist, although I've been told over and over again that there were permits.
And again, sir, I'm just going to ask you to try and conclude your remarks. Thank you.
Well, I'll conclude my remarks.
Thank you, sir.
So I don't understand why I'm being cited under this, for this notice of apparent violation. And I wonder if the town's citing other residents of this town and threatening them with fines for something they might do in the future, not what they're doing. In the meantime, this neighbor is ripping a house apart in violation of the building code, and that's okay. He's keeping commercial construction equipment on the property, and that's okay with the town. Supervisor, why don't you give this gentleman your address and let him bring the construction equipment to your house and let him park it on your front yard so your neighbors can look at it for a year. He's not using it. My wife called numerous times to request a meeting with you, Mr. Supervisor. We were ignored. I wrote a letter. We were ignored. You ignored us. Over the past 9 years, I've paid over $100,000 in real property taxes. I've been a resident of this town my whole life. I keep my property up. I'm a good neighbor. And I would think that you as the supervisor, knowing what's going on, or would at least want to know what's going on in your departments. But you didn't have time for me. You wouldn't meet with me. You wouldn't give me 5 minutes of your time. What I feel should have been done with what's going on down on my property, we're ignored down here. This isn't the only property that's in disrepair. There's another house that's been declared not to be occupied by the fire marshal. The town isn't doing anything about it. It's been since last December. You're talking about zombie properties, but you're allowing zombie properties to exist in our little neighborhood. And I don't understand why you wouldn't meet with me. You should have immediately gotten your department heads together, called me, and sat down with me for 5 minutes so that I could explain to you what was going on in my little world, rather than having to come here in front of everybody and a television camera. I think that this is a common theme for this administration. I heard the first man speak. He's being ignored. I'm being ignored. You won't enforce the zoning code when it's affecting my property value. At the same time, you try to raise the value on my property $110,000. I had to hire an appraiser to fight an unfair and unjust appraisal. What say you? Why wouldn't you meet with me for 5 minutes?
We can meet, sir. Call my office tomorrow. I'm happy to meet with you.
This is we've called numerous times.
Okay, well, I apologize if a meeting hasn't been scheduled. I'm happy to meet with you.
Not even a response.
I'm happy to meet with you. You're hearing it from my lips to you. I'm happy to.
I'll call tomorrow morning.
Very well.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, honorable members of the board.
Okay, so we are running up to our public hearing. I'm going to ask now, Madam Comptroller, just a financial report briefly.
Yes.
Thank you.
The financial results for the town as of June 30th, total expenses, actual as well as encumbered, $17,562,000, 49.1% of the budget, and that's slightly below the 50% of the year that has elapsed. The breakdown in those expenses, $15,288,000 for actual expenses and $2,274,000 for encumbrances. The encumbrances are 6.4%, and our departments are continuing to commit to services and supplies for the remainder of the year. The general fund expenses are favorable to budget at 48.6%, $10,339,000. That split is actual expenditures, $9,175,000, encumbered expenses, $1,165,000. Within the general fund encumbrances are installment debt for equipment leased by the solid waste, tree program, and police departments, information technology projects and services, attorney fees, and other contract expenses throughout the town. Jointly, the highway fund's expenses are lower than the percent of the year that has elapsed at 45.3%. That's $2,646,000. The cost drivers in highway are typically labor and benefits, salt, gas, fuel, road work and paving services and materials such as oil, stoning, and asphalt, as well as equipment parts. Expenditures in the library are 55.2% of budget, $1,423,000, and that overrun is attributed to the annual bond anticipation note payment of $545,000 for principal and interest for the consolidated library. The unfavorable impact of that payment will gradually decline, and it should level off by year end. The sewer fund expenses are 50.4% of budget, $2,056,000. Stormwater drainage totals $3 $311,000, 35.2% of budget. So I am continuing to highlight that the expenses excluding encumbrances for the town as well as the three major funds are less than the percent of the year that has elapsed. 50% of the year has elapsed, as I mentioned earlier. The actual expenditures percentage for the town is 42.7%. For the general fund is 43.1%. For sewer, 42.3%. And for the collective highway funds, 35.2%. So I'm also pleased to highlight again that the actual expenses, including encumbrances, are for the town as well as the three major funds are below the 50% of the year that has elapsed. Excuse me, they are at or below the 50% of the year that has elapsed. The town is at 49.1%, the general fund 48.6%, sewer is at 50.4%, and the collective highway funds 45.3%. The revenue received in the general fund is $13,822,000, 65.9% of budget. Real estate taxes total $11,090,000. Our pilot payments are $197,000. 90% of that budget has been received. That's all that is due at this time. The recreation program fees are favorable at 75.4%, $244,000. The first quarter mortgage tax of $249,000 has been received. That revenue source is at 30.5% of budget. Sales tax is in at $638,000. No other significant major revenue is due at this time. And regarding the entire town, $25.8 million or 73.5% of revenue and appropriate fund balance has been received to date. The library is at 96.6% of its revenue budget, highway 75.7%, sewer is at 99.2% of budget, and the stormwater drainage is 98.4% of budget. This report is for the second quarter, so
Annie,
there's...
So why don't we, just because we're running against the public, why don't we do the quarterly report after the public hearing?
Okay.
I don't want to keep folks waiting any longer. They've been patient.
Right.
And so with that, I'll suspend the second half of the financial report. And forgive me, I didn't mean to cut you off. But with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call up the first public hearing?
Public hearing 7 PH 2019-1 on the matter of rezoning 2590 and 2662 Culver Road from R1 residential to mixed-use commercial.
Motion to open public hearing.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the hearing is now open. I'm just going to give a little bit of context just of how the process works here. We have an application for a rezone. When that occurs, it sets off a process within our, pursuant to our town code, which we actually go above and beyond our town code in some instances to allow for further review and broader, information getting out to folks. What we're going to do first is we're going to have our our Director of Community Development, Carrie Ivers, give the board an overview and the public an overview of what is being proposed and what is under consideration for the board. Then, as is customary, we will ask that the applicants who have submitted the application to rezone will give a presentation. After the board has any questions and asks any questions of them, we then get on to the public providing feedback to the board in that regard. With that, Ms. Ivers, can you just give us a rundown of what the proposal is before the board for consideration and for consideration of public input? And I'll just say also, folks, I took the sign-in sheet for public input for the public hearing. If you did not sign in and still want to come and address the board, you are welcome to do so after all the folks who have signed up to address the board have done so. So if you didn't sign up, you still can speak if you wish. Ms. Ivers, please.
Thank you. So the application before us is requesting a rezoning of the parcel that we're going to just refer to as the Wambarks parcel. It's actually comprised of multiple parcels, two in particular. So the rezoning is being requested to accommodate but a specific development on what I'm going to call the rear portion or the eastern portion of the property. It would be comprised of approximately 6.7 acres to construct a senior housing development. The project would allow for the construction of 80 apartments, 80 senior housing apartments. That's being advanced by Rochester Management. The rezoning application was accepted by the town board, and that's something that this board has that discretion over. And the idea was to rezone the entirety of the parcel, knowing that R1, the underlying R1 zoning would not be a long-term redevelopment, a good scenario for long-term redevelopment. The application advanced mixed-use commercial. However, I will share that the planning board hasn't finalized their referral to the town board. And during their discussion, they raised the issue or the question of whether or not there could be a potential split zone so that R5 might be considered for that portion that Rochester Management is considering for the senior housing. R5 and mixed-use commercial, either one of those would accommodate the mixed-use development, multifamily residential development could be accommodated under either one. However, the planning board, again, just through their discussion, and if you watched last month's meeting, the question became that the housing on the rear would be accommodated under the R5 as well, and so that was one thing that they brought up as a factor to consider.
Carrie, the housing as proposed, would R5, relevant to, I guess, any variances, would R5 be more conducive for that? Would there be more variances necessary?
So there'd be either, excuse me, for, it's a residential classification that allows multifamily development. So for example, the Culver Road, Duran Senior Housing Apartment Complex, when that rezoning took place, it was rezoned from R1 to R5. R5 is there are one of a few that allow multifamily, but that's the one that allows a development of this size. So in this particular instance, R5, this particular site would accommodate the number of units that are being proposed with no variance for density, based on my quick calculation.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I'm doing fast math in my head.
I think to be clear, I don't think the planning board was trying to recommend an amended zoning to allow for a change of the project. They just perhaps felt it was more appropriate for that particular part of the project.
Correct. Right now, the only development that was being advanced is for the senior housing development. And because of that, they thought that the rezoning to the R5 would ensure that only senior housing or housing could locate in that vicinity, versus the mixed-use commercial, which would allow a wider breadth of development types that could be allowed on a parcel. And so that was their thought as they were discussing it. Again, no formal referral has been made, but I share that with this board so that the board can factor that in as they're taking in public comment. And just to clarify, the rezoning application was taken up by this board because the rezone is consistent with recommendations, goals, and objectives outlined in the adopted comprehensive plan. It also supports recommendations that were made in the senior study that was done a few years after the comprehensive plan was adopted. So for those two reasons, and then in this case, the comprehensive plan would support either one of the zoning district potential changes because it meets multiple goals that were expressed for future land use and also future zoning modifications that were outlined in that plan.
Thank you. Just as a matter of process too, I will let folks know, it's been our general rule and my belief that we will not be making a decision tonight. We will be keeping the public hearing open through it at the very earliest next month's board meeting where we very well might make a consideration. Ms. Ivers, yes?
I just wanted to reiterate that you mentioned before that we go above and beyond our requirement for public notice. The requirement, I believe, that's set forth in our code is a 500-foot perimeter. As a policy, years ago, we've adopted that we send to 1,000 people, and in that notice, we provide updated and early notice of upcoming meetings.
Thank you.
So folks have received the notice related to the rezoning and any other applications that might be entertained related to it.
Thank you, Ms. Ivers. And so right now, zoning ultimately is a decision made by the town board. We have an application made by the applicants. However, ultimately, the decision of what the zoning is a legislative decision made as a matter of law by the town board. So we will take testimony and review the proposal, as well as take technically your witnesses to a hearing. So it's testimony at this time, and we will consider it. And but again, no decision made tonight. We certainly want to take in information, not just tonight, but if folks have either questions or comments, as well as for the people at home, you can submit it to supervisor@irondequoit.org, and that will be submitted and disseminated to the members of the town board as well. But if you do have questions, we also are happy to answer them. If not tonight, we will get back to you. So our goal is not to have a Q&A for the hearing, but rather take in information from the community as far as feedback on the proposed zoning change. Do any board members have questions for Ms. Ivers at this time? Very good. With that, I will now ask the applicants to come up. Please just introduce yourself and your affiliation with the project, and if any other folks from the applicants representing them come up, just do the same, I ask.
Great, thank you. Good evening, my name is Andy Hart with Bergman Associates, here representing the applicant Rochester Management in their request to rezone the now vacant and former Wambach parcel located at 2590 and 2662 Culver Road. Here with me tonight are many people from the design team, but specifically Peggy Hill from Rochester Management and the architect Joe Gibbons from SWBR. The existing Wambach property is a 19.2 acre piece of land that's bounded by New York State Route 104 to the north, Culver Road to the west, and single-family residential to the south along Whitlock Road and east on Carl Sam Road Drive. The property is made up of two existing tax parcels, a 17.2 acre piece of land fronted along Culver Road, and then a smaller 1.83 acre piece that's fronted along New York State Route 104. These parcels are currently zoned R1. The applicant's requesting to rezone the parcels. I think what we're looking for, we were submitting an application for mixed-use commercial for the entire parcel, but it sounds like there could be a change on the parcel that Rochester Management wants to build on. So for that purpose, we'll say creating two parcels, one MUC and one R5 potentially, creating two parcels of land through a subdivision process. We did submit a subdivision plan with our application. There's one here for the board and also for the public to look at. And the lot being one is the larger lot, 12.487 acres, rezoned to mixed-use commercial, what we're calling the western portion of the property. And then lot two would be the smaller 6.743 acre parcel, rezoned to potentially R5 or MUC on the eastern portion of the property. The applicant's requesting the rezone to facilitate a new senior housing apartment complex to be located on lot two by itself.
That's the eastern lot, just
Eastern lot,
thank you.
The remaining lot would be rezoned to hopefully MUC, we will see, and would be sold to another developer. So what's going there, we don't know at this point. The applicant feels this multi-family use is a good transition use between the existing single-family residential to the south and the highway to the north, as well as what potentially could happen on the western edge of the parcel as well. Should the rezone be granted, the applicant will be constructing, or requesting to construct through the planning board, a 3-story, 80,000 square foot, 80-unit apartment building, single building, with vehicle access off Halda Park. The site plan currently under consideration shows 80 parking spaces with associated lighting and landscaping, and pedestrian connections to existing sidewalks along Halda Park and Carl Sam Drive, and all the required utility connections and stormwater mitigation required. Existing vegetation will be saved as much as possible along the parcel to mitigate any views into the site from the surrounding neighbors. Should the board have any questions, we're here for you.
Just before questions, just another point of clarity, because this is a nuanced process. The town board's role here is not to look at every individual component of the proposed development. Ultimately, that rests in the responsibility of the planning board and perhaps the zoning board. Our job is to determine if it is an appropriate land use, a zoning, for appropriate project and concept for a rezone of that parcel. And I'll also note, some folks have asked, well, why would you rezone something not knowing what the proposed end use is, and that would be the western part. And my answer to that is that's the point of zoning. Zoning allows the town board to control the type of development that you might see redeveloped on a site. But at the end of the day, does that mean ultimately an applicant could walk in and say to the town, well, this is consistent with the zoning, so we're going to build that? Well, of course not. It still goes through a planning board process. There's traffic considerations taken into place. That is a county road. There are a lot of other elements. So any decision made by the board, it certainly does not authorize and give a carte blanche ability for a project to move forward. It does, though, any decision of a board, any prospective decision does state that we feel this land would be appropriate for this type of designation of zoning. So forgive me, I just wanted to get that clarified, and hopefully I said everything right, Council. Perfect. She's nodding, okay. Do the board members have any questions? And just so, another thing, for folks at home or folks here, on our town board website, there is the complete packet that the board has on Irondequoit.org, the town board page. We also will make it available to you if you do come into the office. We're happy to do that. This is an important decision that affects town stakeholders, and we certainly value being transparent in that regard. So I yield my time to my board members.
No further questions at this time.
I just have a few questions. Rochester Management, just what type of other projects you've done, perhaps that we might reference in other parts of the greater Rochester area?
Yeah, I can bring Peggy Hill
Thank
up
you.
from Rochester Management.
And Ms. Hill, just please say your name and your affiliation.
Sure. My name is Peggy Hill, and I manage Rochester Management. So the projects that we've been involved with are pretty diverse. We've been around for 70 years, so we have a lot of experience. We manage a lot of our own portfolio as well as for other nonprofits such as U of R, Sheen Housing, and CDS Monarch and Webster. So probably the most recent projects that would be relatable to this project would be the ones that we've done for Sheen Housing. Calkins Corners is 60 units and right on Calkins Road near the Wegmans there, serving pretty much the same type of population. And then also we've been very active with CDS Monarch and Webster, putting on over 240 units over the last 5 years or so. And again, we help them through the development, we do the lease up for them, and then we have the ongoing management. Our relationships tend to be quite lengthy and respectful. With U of R, we've been working with them for 60 years, so.
A lot of projects of this nature, especially senior housing, have a supportive element. Would there be any supportive element accompanying the proposed development?
There actually would be in this one, which is new to us. I'll admit it is new to us. The state has a real focus now on trying to keep people able to live in the communities that they've grown up in and raise their children in. So they've actually provided some funding to provide services. We, on this project, we're excited because we're partnering with Rochester Regional Healthcare, which is local. And they will be on site, right at the property. They'll be doing a couple different things. As seniors age, first of all, we'll have 38 units set aside for frail elderly right out of the box, right during lease-up. They'll be there for those folks. And then as others age, they'll be able to assess needs within the people. And then also, there'll be another individual there that can actually link that senior up with the specific needs that they need. And this is where the directive from New York State, honestly, they're pretty much saying if you're going to create some of this supportive or affordable housing, it should really have that component because it makes sense. The state itself, and I know the federal government, is trying to keep people to live independently as long as they can, because we know that the higher cost of nursing homes and stuff is taking a toll on Medicare and Medicaid funds.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? And you manage your, not that it's perhaps germane to our decision, but do you manage your properties?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and we're right down the street, so.
Okay. With that, unless anyone else from the applicant wants to come up and speak on behalf of the project, what we ask, if there are questions, and I ask this of the applicant as well, if there are specific questions of the applicant or things that might reference what they've presented, generally once the public has had the opportunity to provide testimony, we generally ask the applicant, if they wish, to come, or at our demand, to come back up and perhaps provide some answers, or moving forward if they're not ready to tonight. So we don't want to leave any question unanswered before ultimately a board makes the decision. So again, if you hadn't signed up, we have a list of about 8 people. I suspect there's some more people who might want to speak. Once we get to the end of the list of folks who have signed up, we just ask in an orderly fashion. The one thing we do ask too is you addressing the board. We ask that you don't address other members of the audience, no rebukes to other members of the audience. Similar as a legislative body would work, you are addressing the board, providing testimony to us. So we'll have a good, legacy of keeping our public hearings very civil, and I'm very proud of that with this town, and I just ask that you take that into consideration. I'm not unconfident that won't happen, but look forward to hearing from our residents. First up, we have Ann Burns, 199 Bellhurst. And also, please just say your name and address for the record, because it is important we get a clear public record on this.
Good evening, all. I'm Ann Burns. I live at 199 Bellhurst Drive. And I'm here this evening on behalf of the community group Helping Arundequoit Plan for Progress, the HIP group, to comment on this proposed rezoning from R1 to mixed-use commercial to allow an 80,000 square foot senior housing complex to be built. HIP has been involved for over 20 years in the thoughtful redevelopment of the Titus Cooper Hudson Commercial District. And we have no objections at all to this proposed housing complex. But the property on which it will be located should be rezoned to R5 for this portion, the back portion, the eastern portion, since the complex clearly conflicts with both the goals and requirements of an MUC zoning district as set forth in the town code. We would agree with the discussion that was referenced by Ms. Ivers with the planning board. And then we believe the front portion, the west portion of this property should be rezoned either R5, R6, or C business. I know there's nothing proposed for that right now, but if you're considering rezoning, we ask that MUC not be considered. Currently, the only mixed-use commercial district in Arundequoit is the Titus Cooper Hudson neighborhood. And Section 235-30.1 of the town code states that the goals of a mixed-use commercial zone include creating an aesthetically pleasing public realm of streets and sidewalks framed by building facades, decorative and enlarged sidewalks, architectural street lighting and signage, enhanced by trees, plazas, parks, natural and recreational areas, and other public amenities. Section 235-30.4 of the town code strictly prohibits any use involving a building with the gross floor area exceeding 8,000 square feet or up to 15,000 square feet with bonuses for public enhancements in an MUC. The proposed complex for the Wambach property is more than 5 times the maximum square footage permitted in an MUC. And we are particularly concerned about the precedent this size of building sets for future applications in the Titus Cooper Hudson neighborhood MUC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Next up, Richard Barone, 154 Allwood.
Having served on a planning board for 14 years, I'm very familiar with this type of project, although this is one of the biggest ones I've seen. Most of my questions have been answered, but I think for the benefit of the audience, some of whom may not know the terminology, I think you need to describe, or the applicant needs to describe, the definition of commercial or business as it applies to this residential area. Thank you.
Trying to think of how to frame a response to that. It's pursuant to our code. I mean, it's with reference to what's permissible. Ms. Ivers, I won't put you on the spot, but at some point in the meeting before we leave, can you just provide what is included in the code as far as the definition of commercial or business? I don't know if the code even references that, but, we're here to, ultimately, there are certain defined uses that are permissible under the MUC code, so.
I'm happy to do that. I'm also going to point out that the town zoning code is available via the town's website. It's also hosted independently on ecode360.com. If you Google that with the town of Arundequoit, it'll bring you right to our code. And all of the zoning districts with permitted uses, bulk and use, meaning how big things need to be and how far away they need to be from each other, all of that's provided right on the website. We also have printouts available at Town Hall, but I'm happy to provide a description once the public hearing is toward the end.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, next up, I believe it's Linda Knight. Forgive me if that's not correct. Is Linda, thank you, hello. 2858 Culver Road. Hello.
Hi. Linda Knight, 2858 Culver Road. Many of the questions that I had were pretty much answered. My only concern is the front property, which to me is the front property because I'm right on Culver Road, is how that's going to be zoned and the impact of traffic, because right now I have a lot of difficulty getting out of my driveway.
Where do you live relevant to that interchange?
I'm right in between St. Cecilia's and the fire department.
Thank you.
So I'm like
A little bit north.
corner across from the old Turkish Society.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah. So, and there's been several accidents in front of my house, and I know that up by the 104, there's been a lot of accidents. My question to you is, are you going to be considerate of traffic flow down Culver Road in accordance with the zoning of the front piece of property for Wombats?
Yeah, so any proposed development on that front parcel, which has access off of Culver, will require a traffic assessment by Monroe County, and that's taken into consideration. And I think they get, I don't know how subjective, Carrie, they get in that, but it certainly is, they can really describe, I think, the influence based on the number of car trips that a proposed use would generate. So for instance, senior housing, as a matter of, I guess, generally just generates lower amount of traffic count. Other commercial uses, perhaps not so much. So certainly the county looks at the proposed number of vehicle trips and then determines an impact. Carrie, anything to add there?
What I would say is Monroe County DOT would be the permitting agency for any redevelopment along that stretch, and they'll likely require what's known as a traffic impact study. Some development along county roads don't require that level of detail because either the site can accommodate, a use, or it isn't. They're not anticipating any issues. I think with this site, it's pretty safe to say that a traffic impact assessment would be needed. Monroe County DOT won't issue a permit for highway access or to their highway if they don't think the site can operate safely.
And meaning a curb cut or
Right,
yeah.
right. But I guess it's a big space there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only 6 point something that's being used for the senior. And I don't have a problem with that. I listened to the meeting last night, and everything seemed to be, okay. And it looks like a beautiful space that's going to be created. The only problem I have is now, Culver Road, I mean, it's impossible almost during hours of between 2 and 6, it's almost sometimes impossible for me to get out of my driveway safely and get in my driveway safely without people blowing their horn at me and wanting me to go into oncoming traffic. I mean, people actually do this. But it being zoned for something like a Walgreens or a Walmart or any super commercial would be, you know, like an issue. And there's residential, it's all residential in that stretch. It's not a lot of commercial up until you get to Culver and the Ridge. So, I mean, you know, of course, there's the fire department and St. Cecilia's, and, you know, that's not an issue, because I kind of know, you know, when to avoid those areas. But if something were to go in there besides, you know, like office space or something like that, that's only minimal times that they run, I would have a problem with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Next up, forgive me, your first name is Virginia. I can't read your last name. You live on Whitlock. There she is. Just please say your name and address, Virginia.
Virginia Stringfellow.
And can you do me a favor? Just because there's probably thousands of people watching at home, just talk. Don't be afraid of that mic.
Virginia Stringfellow.
Thank you.
883 Whitlock Road. I don't mind that they want to put senior housing. I'm for that. I just don't like that the road will come up and down Whitlock. We already have too much traffic. People get off of Norton Street, they come down Norton, they turn onto Densmore, speeding through the school zone. I've sat and watched all this. Then they turn on Whitlock. Motorcycles, people speed on Whitlock all the time. I noticed maybe a month or two they had one of those the electronic things that shows you how fast you're going. Thank you. And the traffic alone, I've been there 15 years. It's terrible. And now with this, we're going to have transfer vehicles taking them to doctor's offices. We'll have ambulances, probably fire trucks. They come if there's an emergency. The traffic alone is not acceptable.
Okay. Anything else, Dad?
No, I'm just furious about it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
And they can't put it on Culver Road. You can't put another traffic light there. There's one already there for 104. And I know we're not here for the front part, but if they put a store or something in there, they'll be coming down Hulda too.
I don't know if that's
Whitlock.
necessarily true. I don't know if that's necessarily true, and certainly that's a consideration to take
Because
in.
Wambex wasn't really that busy. You can get in and out in the summer, but
Perhaps, after the public has addressed this, I'm going to ask for a clarification from the developer just on proposed access and whether or not the subdivision was envisioned to have that sort of access all the way to Culver. So once everyone has spoken, we'll get them back up to answer that.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up, forgive me, I just can't see anywhere. Bob of Carl Sam Drive. Okay, sorry, Bob. Is it Finaccio?
That's good enough.
Just say your name and address, please.
Finocchio, 303 Carl Sam Drive. It's a good project. It's in the wrong spot. I'll tell you that right now. First of all, you got, like she was saying, Hulda Park is about 20 houses down on Whitlock Road. Whitlock Road is 22 feet wide. Hulda Park is about 21 feet wide. There's kids playing on that street all day long. I go up and down it 5-6 times a day. And you have to go 5 miles an hour because they're darting in. There's no sidewalks, so they play in the street. So now we're going to have ambulances, fire trucks, all other traffic. 80 apartments, way too many. Density's way too high. And I'm in the real estate business for 40 years. That density is way, way too high for that area. 3 stories. There's nothing 3 stories around. This town hall is 3 stories. That's going to be my neighbor. Your town hall is going to be right next door to me. 2 stories is the library. 2 stories is the school, Densmore School. 2 stories is the Legacy. 2 stories is the apartments next to the Legacy. Now we got this big monster 3-story thing sticking in the residential area. Doesn't go. Plus the kids. I feel this is the wrong project for that area. It's zoned residential. It's on the master plan residential for 70 years. Now it's going to be changed to that. I could see townhouses or something in there, but not that. You guys already denied Densmore Road, 11 acres for commercial, for mixed use. You denied that a lot of times, because I listen to it all the time. You denied Titus Avenue for the Legacy, who owned the property. You denied that, and that's now going to be used as single-family homes, and so is Densmore, because you wouldn't give it the approval. And I do not think this should get the approval either.
Thank you,
The
sir.
way it is, the way it is,
Thank you.
okay?
If other folks who did not sign up wish to address the board, you're welcome. Go ahead, sir. I guess it's first come, first serve, so don't be shy. And just again, please just say your name and address.
Hello, my name is Mark Gugino. I own 876 Whitlock Road. And since I bought the house about 20 years ago, there's a drainage problem that I've been trying to fix. And I haven't been able to up to this point. I have information with pictures. I don't know if I can give this.
Could you leave it with the clerk and we'll make sure it's copied and disseminated to the board?
All right, back in about 1963, Wambach filled all that land in, and it created a bathtub effect in my yard and the neighbor's yard. And we tried to get it fixed, and we can't find the drain, and it's clogged. So I've been dealing with the town, and they said that if anything goes back in there, that they'll put a new drain system in. So I just would like to give this information. That's all I'm concerned
Thank you,
about.
no, and,
Because the house, the guy next door, he abandoned his house. Because the water's right up, when it rains really hard, the water's this high up my back door. So it's bad.
And I'm not an engineer, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of our town engineers, but certainly I believe the proximity to a steep slope, there would be a stormwater protection plan that would need to be in place, Carrie?
Based on this being over an acre, there's a stormwater pollution prevention plan that would be
It's a
included.
SWIP, that's all I know it is.
Yes, would be part of this. And certainly our town engineer is reviewing any submitted plans to look for potential issues or concerns related to drainage and other engineering-related concerns for site development here.
And I'm not certain if that might tie into your issue, but certainly leave it with us, and we'll certainly continue to work with you on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anybody else? Yes, oh. You, then you're next.
My name is Tricia Carroll, and I live at 1136 Whitlock Road. And I too can concur with what Bob Finocchio says with the traffic, the children. I've lived there for 30 years. And it's a quiet, peaceful, wonderful neighborhood. I have nothing against the project. I think it's beautiful. It just does not belong in our backyard. It will be an eyesore, and it will change the property values. You know, people will not want to move into the area when you go to sell your home. And, you know, I'm concerned about the traffic, mostly. Right now, the traffic is horrible anyway. So people come from Densmore from Norton to Densmore, down Whitlock, and during school, it's, you know, you got the school buses, you have a lot of traffic that I think would compromise the proposal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Miss?
My name is Patricia Fagan. I live at 310 Carl Sam Drive. I live right across the street from Bob Finocchio. We live right in back of the property, the proposed property. I too am against the development in that spot. I think it's more suited for the front part. This is our proposed R5 in the smack dab middle of a residential single-family home development. And I'm concerned as well about the traffic on Whitlock. There's no sidewalks. I walk my dog up and down there, and I have to go on people's grasses because there's parked cars in the street, and then two cars, one in either way, coming. I'm concerned about regarding last night's meeting at I-Square. Full transparency, I didn't know that Rochester Management was involved with the front half. That was never mentioned in the meeting that I went to. I think this property, yes, beautiful, but more suited for the front half. Put a park on the back half to service the whole area, including all the side streets, Whitlock, Heberly, Wall. Whitlock is just congested with the school buses. When the the elementary school drops off, those kids need parents to pick them up. They currently park on Hulda Park and wait for that bus to come, which comes down Hulda and is pointed north, in other words, to this proposed entranceway. So where are these parents going to park and wait for their kindergartner to get off the bus if we have other traffic going in there? Now, I know that it said that seniors don't drive. This is a 55-plus community proposed. I am 55, and I drive all over the place, lots of times.
I think it was suggested that in general, the number of car trips is less for a senior. I don't think it was implied there would be no cars.
Well, no, I said yes, I said less traffic.
Gotcha.
I get it, but I mean, I am an inch away from being a senior, and so I drive, and I'm very active. So I'm against it. I think, as Mr. Finocchio said, it's in the wrong spot. It's a beautiful property. It's in the wrong spot. I'm against rezoning it, keep it residential, build single-family senior living, small 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-bedroom, make it small, like how they wanted for the apartments. They said most of them are 1-bedroom, 1-bath. I'm also concerned about this proposal. 38 apartments are going to be for frail seniors. That's a lot of emergency vehicles. So that is half of this development is going to be for frail seniors that need more service from Rochester Regional. So that is my concern. The sidewalks, the fire truck. Last night I learned that the fire trucks will be accessing through Carl Sam Drive in front of my house, and they will crash through a breakaway gate when there's a fire. Now, I've watched emergency vehicles go into the Shire of Culverton, which is a 2515 Culver Road. There's a lot of emergency vehicles that go in there, and when they do, it's an ambulance and a fire truck. So I don't know how they're to determine when the fire is real and when it's not. And so is every time that an emergency is going to be called, is a fire truck going to be coming from East Ridge Firehouse down Culver, down Whitlock, making a left on Densmore, making a left on Carl Sam just to attend to this facility?
I'm going to ask for clarification, but I think actually the proposed access on Carl Sam is because for a development like this, you want at least two means of egress into a property. I don't think that's intended to be the primary access for emergency vehicles. However, often if you want to have a secondary access just in case fire trucks access is blocked off. But I will ask for clarification from the applicants on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am against the proposal.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Come on up. Nice shirt.
It's incredible. Thanks, everyone.
I'm
My
just
name
saying,
is,
excuse me.
What's
name,
that?
Name and address, yeah.
yeah, my name is Keith Merkel. I live at 61 Garford Road. I'm a third-generation Arundecoit native. And I'd like to say I have questions. Has any other location been considered in Arundecoit for such a development? I know that's a question for the applicant. I'm not sure if anything's been brought up to the board or not. But we're talking about 17 acres, which is rare in Arundecoit. I think it's what, 94% developed? Something
I don't
like
know.
that.
It's in the 90s, probably in the upper 90s.
Yeah, we don't have the space like a Webster, a Penfield, a Greece. 17 acres is a huge plot of land, and I think we could use something better to serve all the people of Arundecoit. I think we could use it for green space. But I think there's better use for this. And I don't know if the town puts money aside for when green space opens up to preserve it, but I know we don't have much left, and I think we have to make the right decision and use it for the right purpose. I want my kids to be able to use this. They won't be able there unless they're 65. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, come on up. We have two people at least.
Hi, I'm Susan Trinello. I'm at 1006 Whitlock Road. I am right on the corner of Whitlock and Huldah, which is the proposed entrance to be opened up right now. The traffic down there is absolutely crazy. My husband and I have spent many phone calls calling in for people running through the stop signs. There's the kids that come down for the bus stop. They are right on that corner. People park on that street. There are times where we've had to park on the street, and the street is very narrow to begin with. So I don't mind the building if it wasn't so big. It is very large, being 3 stories high, but I would definitely be opposed to the traffic down there.
Thank you. Miss, I think you wanted to.
I'm Gail Bauer-Schmidt. I live at 2412 Culver Road. I'm on the corner of Culver and Birch, right across from that gas station that's coming and going. I'm lucky that my driveway is on Birch, so I don't have to worry about backing out into Culver Road. But still, it's hard to get out onto Culver Road, especially if it's during the time when the kids' school buses are there, or rush hour traffic. Once school is in session, it's almost impossible to try and get in and out. Sometimes I'll actually go down and come down, well, there's other little side streets to cut through, to get onto Norton Street, to make a right onto Norton Street, because it's easier than trying to get out onto Culver Road. If I want to make a left, I'll go down to Norton Street and turn on that. It's just almost impossible to get out. Now, I'm also been looking into senior living, because I am a true senior. I'm 75, I'm a true senior, and I talk about being in something that I would like to handle that I'm not putting rent into. I don't want to lose the equity that I have in my house. When you put money into rent, it's gone. I've been looking into condos. Most of them are in Webster or Penfield. There's nothing here in Arundecoit to satisfy people like me who want to stay in Arundecoit because we like the living here. But there's nothing for us. Now, someone suggested making that into like townhouses, which would be, to me, a lot better idea, that I can still stay here, have some place to go to, I can still buy it, keep my equity. It's taken care of, with the driveways are plowed and the land's taken care of, and it'd be a lot smaller than this massive thing. And that's my concern. The traffic, and the fact that should be used for, like the man said, green space, or something a little smaller like townhouses for the seniors. Thank you.
Ms. Bauer-Schmidt. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, come on. Actually,
You can't come back to me?
I don't want to make it a habit if you have, it's a snowball effect, a domino effect.
Shot for 'em. Good evening, my name is Kathy Earhart, 22 Glenview Lane, and I just wanted to comment on some of the things that were discussed already. I do agree that we need more patio home, townhouse types of things, but referencing the mixed-use commercial proposal, we have so many empty businesses in this town. that if we need any more commercial homes for commercial businesses, they should be going in places that are currently available and leave this property for residential only. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask the applicant if they wish to come back up. Certainly, if there's anything you want to, any additional information you have. I don't know if my board members, I actually have some questions as well, just that people pose. If you can't answer now, we appreciate it. If otherwise, perhaps we'll get something on the record in the interim. But go ahead.
I can't remember who spoke, but they said that we were involved in the front half. RMI is, or our Rochester Management is not involved with the front half, other than rezoning.
Okay.
We're not developing the front half of the parcel.
So you have, then to clarify, do you have permission from the current owner to make application for rezone?
We do.
Okay, but you have no legal affiliation besides that?
Correct.
Which is not uncommon. People are granted the permission from a current owner to make application for rezone. So that is under these circumstances what has occurred.
True. The other comment maybe on the fire truck, I think Joe was at the meeting last night and talked with the fire marshal. They call it a crash gate, but they don't crash through the gate. They unlock the gate and drive through it. So we don't want a $500,000 fire truck crashing through.
Can you just clarify, though, if there is a fire, would the primary access be down Hulda, and would that Carl Sam?
Would be a secondary access should it be needed
Should it
in
be
a
needed,
case of
okay.
a fire.
Okay.
Not a minor medical issue.
And that's
At least
not
that's the way he explained it.
that's not uncommon. And a good comparison, I guess, it would be LaCroix Court. There's a primary entrance, and then if you're familiar with LaCroix Court, there's kind of an entrance that doesn't seem like an entrance, and that's a similar purpose for that, to provide first responders access.
I don't know if there was any other things that you wanted to respond to.
Can I ask just a few questions? Do you have, I don't know if you have this prepared, but do you have general number per unit, number of car trips per day? Is there a general formula that you have? Is that already something you've devised?
We don't have it yet, but as we talked in our meetings last night, we're happy to provide or pay for an expert, an engineer to come in and do a traffic study on that. Some of the residents last night thought it would be good to wait until September when the bus traffic is in full swing, so we're happy to do that too, and obviously share it with the board, zoning board, and public as well.
Okay. Any general best practice for this type of facility of the number of car trips it would generate? Perhaps not the baseline, but
I can just tell you from prior experience in our other projects, we have one in the process right now. We did do a traffic study, and it's 20% larger, and the traffic was pretty minimal in terms of trips. This would be a little bit different too, and I guess I do want to clarify the concern with ambulance trips and so forth. I personally haven't dealt yet with the supportive aspect, but I can tell you, I mean, frail elderly to qualify, it just means you need help with maybe one or two things to live in your daily life. So these are not people that are, living in a nursing home right now being transported over here. They're people that just need some sort of assistance. And the things that Rochester Regional brings to the table are a wide variety of things. It could be help with healthy habits, nutrition. It could be transportation to non-urgent medical appointments. And of course, connection to that all-important primary care physician that really holds people in a stable place. Without that, they can kind of spin out of control over time.
thank you. Any other board members have questions for the?
No, but I appreciate the clarification because I was going to ask you what frail elderly really meant, and I had a feeling it was different than what we were all thinking. I'm also wondering, is there any plan for any connectivity between the two front and back, we'll call them?
I don't know if we've shown any, we haven't shown any yet, but we don't know what's going on in the front. So I think there's some potential to have.
Talking to the mic, please, if it's possible.
I think there is possibility to have cross-access there if what is happening on the western half is compatible with what's happening on the eastern half.
Not consideration that an access off Culver would be the primary access and the Hulda or Carlson would be secondary or tertiary?
The parcel that's under purchase is only the 6.7 acres. We'd have to talk with Wambach about providing an access easement through the property if we were to do an access off Culver.
Thank you. Okay, if board members don't have any other questions, thank you for your time. We're going to leave the public hearing open. If people have further testimony or information to submit to the board, they may do so in writing. 1280 Titus Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14617. Attention supervisor, and I'll disseminate it to the town board. Also supervisor@arundecoit.org, and my fellow board members' emails are also available through that. If we need clarification for you, we will ask, and certainly if there's any supporting information you can provide to better inform the board's decision, we would appreciate that as well. So,
We can do that. Thank you.
thank you. And thank you, everyone, for your, your comments. We're going to take a brief recess just to allow people, I'm sure everyone wants to stay for the balance of our board meeting, but if you don't, we ask that you just filter out and perhaps bring it outside because we want to make sure the board can hear each other. Reconvene the board meeting. I ask folks if you're welcome to stay. We love having people in the audience, but if you do go outside, just be mindful that the sound does carry in here, and we appreciate your consideration in that regard. With that, I'm going to defer to yield my time to the comptroller to let her finish up the second half of her monthly financial report.
So page 3 of the financial report shows the second quarter summary and a comparison to the prior 6 years. Regarding the expenditures by fund, which is the top third of the page, the percent of total current budget spent and encumbered is 49.1%, and that's less than the prior 5 years. Excluding 2017, when the town saw significant highway garage fire-related expenditures, the expenditures in the major funds are basically on par with other years, and this year just slightly lower. The middle third of the page contains the pertinent sources of revenue for the general fund. The bottom third of the page allows the revenue comparisons for the other funds, and the last line reflects the bottom line collective revenue and fund balance for the town. The general fund revenue of 65.9% is lower than the prior years, and that's primarily due to lesser amounts of one-time unbudgeted revenue, and it has less appropriated fund balance than the prior years. The total revenue and fund balance of 73.5%, which is at the bottom line, is slightly lower than the prior years for the same reason that I just described for the fund balance. We basically have less one-time unbudgeted revenue. And this concludes my financial report for June.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions or comments on the financial report?
No, thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Annie. And with that, I'll take a motion to accept the financial report.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is accepted. Madam Clerk, approval of minutes.
June 11th, 2019.
Motion.
Moved.
Ms. Romeo, and I need a second from Mr. Perticone.
Move. Second.
Questions, comments, revisions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Mr. Wayner and Ms. Hushler-Ray and abstain. Minutes are approved.
June 18th, 2019, the regular town board meeting.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Perticone. Any questions, comments, revisions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Mr. Wayner abstains. The minutes are approved. We can now move on to item for board action
Item for
Numero
board
uno.
action number 2, authorizing a settlement agreement, Seneca Ridge Associates.
Motion
Moved.
in a second. Thank you. Sorry, Madam Clerk, I've already thrown you off with the wrong number. So this is a resolution advanced by our assessor. I will note this was advanced by our previous assessor and reviewed by our current new assessor, and she has supported the recommendation for settlement. It would lower the settlement for the 2019 year for the Seneca Ridge Associates from 4.8 million to 3.5 million, modifying a request for several years of reduction that they had originally applied for. Any questions, comments, revisions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 3, authorizing the supervisor to renew the vendor service agreement with the Animal Hospital of Pittsford.
Motion, move, in a second.
Second.
Ms. Ivers, explanation, please.
Thank you, Supervisor. This is a resolution that would allow you to renew our standing agreement with the Pittsford Animal Hospital for boarding services related to animal control. This is going to be the last renewal. The signed agreement would take us until the end of this year, and prior to that, we would actually issue new RFP to initiate another round of contracts.
Thank you, Carrie. Any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 4, authorizing an agreement with Lifespan of Greater Rochester for the Home Safe Home for Seniors program of support services to the elderly as approved through the Community Development Block Grant during August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
Thank you. Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Seeley, would you please explain this resolution and the subsequent 4 resolutions all in one as they relate to one another?
Yes. The next 5 resolutions are for requesting authorization for the supervisor to enter into contract for CDBG service programs. And the first one, service programs beginning August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020. The first one is for Lifespan, for services of Lifespan to provide non-medical home support services to elderly residents, and the proposal is the Home Safe Home for Seniors proposal, and that's for $15,500 for the year. The next one is for Housing Council at Pathstone to provide a comprehensive program of services pertaining to housing and home ownership to low and moderate income residents of the town. That is for $26,000. The third one is for the Catholic Family Center for non-medical service, home support services to the elderly of the town. And that is the program that's run out of our senior center by town staff, and that is for $26,100. The fourth one is for the Arundecoit Community Cupboard to provide healthy food choices to low-income persons to enhance the quality of the lives of people in need, and that is for $20,000. And the last of the 5 is to secure services of the Medical Motor Service of Rochester and Monroe County to provide transportation services to elderly residents, and that is an annual amount of $9,000.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. Any questions on the first resolution, which relates to Lifespan's Home Safe Home for Seniors program? This is a contract in the amount of $15,500. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 5, authorizing an agreement with the Housing Council at Pathstone for housing counseling services to low and moderate income residents as approved through the Community Development Block Grant during August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
This would authorize the supervisor to enter into a contract for the program described by Clerk Janier in the amount of $26,000. Any questions or comments? And I'll just note, this is a very good program we offer. It is charged with offsetting foreclosures. I use the word early intervention, but that's really what it is. It's people at the beginning of the foreclosure process to try and provide counseling and assistance. Wonderful to fund. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 6, authorizing an agreement with the Catholic Family Center for non-medical home sports services to the elderly as approved through the Community Development Block Grant during August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
Motion and a second.
Second.
This would authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Catholic Family Center for the program described by Clerk Janier in the amount of $26,100. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 7, authorizing an agreement with the Arundecoy Community Cupboard to provide healthy food choices to low-income residents as approved through the Community Development Block Grant during August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
Motion
Moved.
and a second. Thank you. The fourth resolution before the board would authorize the supervisor enter into an agreement with the Arundecoy Community Cupboard for a contract of $20,000 for the program and purpose described by Clerk Janier. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 8, authorizing an agreement with the Medical Motor Service of Rochester and Monroe County for transportation services to the elderly as approved through the Community Development Block Grant during August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. This would authorize the execution of an agreement with Medical Motor Service of Rochester for the program described by Clerk Janier in the amount of not to exceed $9,000. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 9, authorizing attendance to the New York State Magistrate Annual Conference.
Motion
Move.
and a second.
Second.
Thank you. This resolution was advanced by our Court Administrator, Dave Marion. It provides for attendance for two of our town justices, September 15th through September 18th, for the Magistrates Annual Conference. This was budgeted in the 2019 town budget for costs not to exceed $2,300. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 10, authorizing grant application from the Justice Court Assistance Program.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Thank you. The Justice Court Assistance Program is run by the state. It requires no cost share contributions from the municipality. It provides for grant funding to make certain modifications and upgrades to the court. Sometimes there are modifications that the state deems they want to occur, but this would authorize Mr. Marion and the town to apply for upwards of $30,000 for the 2019-2020 JCAP program. Questions or comments?
Just a comment that Mr. Marion's done a great job of many improvements through this grant process for us.
Agreed. And he's very tenacious and aggressive on the behalf of the town, so hopefully we will be successful in this current year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 11, authorizing Amendment B of lump sum intermunicipal agreement with New York State for snow and ice for 2018-2019 season.
Motion. Moved. And a second.
Second.
Commissioner Kiley, I have not heard from you tonight, so let's get busy.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Annually, the town of Arundecoy enters into an agreement with New York State DOT to plow and salt Empire Boulevard, our only state highway here in town. As a result of the abnormal snow and ice season for the 2018-2019 season, the state is offering a cost adjustment in the amount of $9,958.79. This would, therefore, in that amount, really compensate the town for this additional services rendered.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. Does the board have any questions for the commissioner? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 12, accepting a grant funding from New York State Department of Conservation.
Motion. Moved. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Kylie, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Department of Public Works wrote a grant for the cost, or at least partial coverage of a cost for a vac truck, a truck that would be used within our drainage department to unobstruct catch basins that are clogged with sediment and silt. As a result of that application, we were awarded $281,250. This resolution formally accepts those funds, and the next resolution purchases the vac truck.
Thank you. And Bob, this would be our third vac truck, correct?
That is correct. The first two are dedicated within sanitation. This would be our first dedicated storm vac truck.
Splendid. Any questions or comments for the commissioner? I hear none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 13, authorizing the purchase of one Vector truck to be used by the Department of Public Works and the necessary budget transfer.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Thank you, Mr. Kylie. Just continue, I guess, this is a continuation of the previous resolution, but why don't you just explain the mechanics of it?
Thank you, Supervisor Sealy. The town of Arundecoit seeks to purchase a new vac truck with a total dollar value of $385,935,000. $250,000 of which would be coming from the grant in the previous resolution. The balance, $104,685, would be transferred from the storm fund balance to the operating equipment costs for the purchase of a new vac truck utilizing the Onondaga County contract as a qualified piggybacking.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
One question. How soon can our excited residents expect to see this fabulous truck out working in the storm sewers?
Best estimate at this time is between 9 and 12 months.
Awesome.
Next summer.
Kimmy was hoping the answer got less months between last week and this week, but thank you, Bob. Good. This is good stuff altogether, so good work on your part. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 14, accepting gifts for Invigorate Arundecoit.
Motion. Move. And a second. Thank you. Ms. Hall, explanation, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This annual event took place on May 4th and saw approximately 90 volunteers. So this resolution is to accept the gifts given by various businesses as well as local supporters so that we could provide these volunteers with the necessary supplies to, in general, pick up our parks. And it's a very successful event every year that we host it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 15, accepting gifts for the Arundecoit Farmers Market.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Thank you. Any, Ms. Hall, explanation,
Yes,
please.
thank you. Again, this is a resolution to accept gifts, this time given for our farmers market. These gifts help the town to provide free entertainment at the market, at the Sunday concert series, as well as our Movies Under the Stars program.
Very nice. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 16, authorizing the supervisor to enter into various contracts with vendors for the town's 2019 Oktoberfest celebration.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Second. Ms. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution is to enter into agreements for entertainers, food vendors, and security for the Oktoberfest event, and these contracts were available for the board to review at the workshop.
Very well. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 17, approving the special event license for the American Red Cross to hold a blood drive at the Arundecoit Town Hall.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Thank you. We have an upcoming blood drive, August 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. here in the Broderick Meeting Room. Any residents wishing to donate blood, which there always is a need, can join me in doing so and can call 336-6034 to reserve an appointment. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 18, accepting gifts for Little Free Library.
Motion.
Moved.
A second.
Second.
Thank you. I mentioned in my supervisor's remarks at the beginning of this meeting, our Little Free Library initiative, the new addition outside of Town Hall was made possible through the donation of the Arundecoit Library Foundation, and we certainly are grateful for that, and this would accept their gift to the town. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 19, authorizing the transfer from the general fund balance to the capital improvement land purchase expense account.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
In May, at the board workshop meeting, the board authorized the supervisor to enter into a settlement agreement. Funding for the agreement is currently available in the general fund, and the Department of Public Works wished to request a $61,000 transfer from the general fund balance, and this would authorize that transfer. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 20, approving the special event license for St. Joseph's Annual Ukrainian Catholic Church Festival.
Motion. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. The St. Joseph's Ukrainian Catholic Church is holding their annual festival August 15th through August 18th. It is one of the great events of the year in the town of Arundecoit, and we always thank them for putting on a good party and sharing their culture with us. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 21, approving the special event license for the annual Rochester Area Triathletes Triathlon.
Motion. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. This would approve application by Rochester Area Triathletes Incorporated to host the triathlon on Saturday, August 24th from 7:50 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. They have been working in concert with the County DOT, City of Rochester Special Events, Monroe County Parks, Sheriff's Department, and of course, the town of Arundecoit. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 22, approving the special event license for the 7th Annual Mike Coyle Memorial Fun Run.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. This would approve an application for the 7th Annual Mike Coyle Memorial Fun Run to be held on August 25th, 2019, beginning at 9 a.m., starting at Listwood Elementary School. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Pursuant to Section 105 of Public Officers Law, Article 7, I move that we enter into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular individual. Do I have a motion? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are now in executive session.
hope you enjoyed this presentation.
Town board meeting is, a workshop is Tuesday, August 13th, 4 PM here in the Broderick Meeting Room. The next regular town board meeting, Tuesday, August 20th, 2019, 7 PM in the Broderick Meeting Room. I will now take a motion to adjourn.
Move.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, gang.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access. We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access.